All right, we're going to start with our new set of notes, which are nomenclature notes. Nomenclature is just a really big word for naming. So, nomenclature, we're going to learn how to write formulas and how to name compounds if we already have the formula. No journal today because I'm recording this ahead of time. You have a sub today. This is really easy. We learned how to name 3 different compounds, um, molecular compounds, which is what we're doing today, ionic compounds, and then acids. And this is really by far the easiest one. So you shouldn't have any problem getting it. So we're going to start off with writing formulas for binary. Bi means two. So these compounds are made out of 2 elements. They're molecular compounds. So molecular means it has a covalent bond. So if that's true, then we're talking about 2 nonmetals coming together. You need to know these prefixes. We do have a quiz on Thursday over what you're learning today, and I will give you these prefixes for that. But these you do get to know, need to know. Probably a lot of them you already know. So this is what, for covalent compounds, the different prefixes are used. They're the only ones that use a prefix. All right, if you have the name and you need to write the formula, you simply write what you see. So in other words, nitrogen would just be nitrogen, and tetrasulfides, you have to look in the middle for the root. Sulf, that would be the root for sulfur, and tetra means 4, so that would be NS4. Notice that the first element would never start with mono. In other words, the first element only has a prefix when you have 2 atoms of that. The second element, you can see it always has a prefix, even if it's mono. And then the ending is changed to "ide," kind of like we've done with our ions before. So you have to look kind of to the middle past the prefix to get what root you're talking about. So carbon, no prefix, so that would just be C. Dioxide, ox would be the root for oxygen, and di would mean 2. Once again, oxygen with no prefix would be 1. And then fluor would be fluorine. Mono means 1, so just OF. You would never put a subscript of 1, so you would never write O1, F1. That would be incorrect. And also, you have to have your symbols capitalized. So if I wrote it with a little o and a little f, that would be incorrect. Now, once you've written a symbol that has 2 letters in it, let's say like for chlorine, then obviously the first one is a capital and the second letter is a small letter, but all symbols start with a capital. Sulfur, so that's S. Hexachlor, right? So chlor would be Cl, and hexa means 6. All right. So I'm going to pause here for a minute and let y'all try those 4 using those rules. All righty. If Mr. Anderson wants to start play again, then we'll start where we left off. Try oxygen. Whoops, sorry about that, y'all. Jumped ahead. Try oxygen. So tri means 3. Oxygen is O, so O3. Decanitride, so that would be nitrogen. Deca is 10. Tetrafluorine, so fluorine is F. Tetra is 4. And then monophosphide. So that's phosphorus. Mono means just 1. Notice that all of the endings are "ide." The first element has stayed just like it is off the periodic table, no change in its ending. Always have a prefix on the second element. Don't have a prefix on the first element until you have more than one. And so you should never be writing anything that starts with mono, the whole name that starts with mono. Hexafluorine, so fluorine is F. Hexa is 4. No, hexa is not 4. Hexa is what? 6. And nanosulfide, so that's S for sulfur, and nana is 9. And then heptabromine, bromine is Br. Hepta is 7. Octanitride, so once again, that's nitrogen, and octa is 8. All right, so pretty easy there. Now, if you are now have the formula and you need to write the name, so writing your names, the less electronegative element is given first. So remember, less electro is farthest from fluorine. It only has a prefix when it contributes more than one atom to a molecule in the compound. All this means is never, never, never start with mono. So a name of a covalent compound should never start with mono. The second element is named by combining a prefix that indicates the number of atoms. Then you would use your root of your element, and then you end with "ide." So we have prefix, root, "ide." And here are your common roots that you can need to learn and get familiar with, because we'll use those quite a bit. The O or the A at the end of a prefix is usually dropped when the word following the prefix begins with another vowel. So like instead of with monooxide, instead of having 2 O's, one is dropped. Pentaoxide, instead of having AO, then we drop the A from the prefix. All right, so let's look at some practice here. First one, carbon. Only have one, but I don't put monocarbon. I just put carbon. No change to the ending, just like it is on the periodic table. The second one always has a prefix. 4 is tetra. And then chlor would be the root, and then ends in "ide." Tetra, prefix, chlor, root, ending in "ide." Once again, nitrogen, only one nitrogen, so no prefix. It's just like it is on the periodic table. The second one always has a prefix, so 3 would be tri, the root for fluor, and the ends in "ide." Most of these, you can see the first one doesn't have more than one. When I finally get down here, I have more than one atom of the first element. So that's the first time I'm going to see a prefix. So 2 is di, and that's nitrogen. No change to the ending. The second one always has a prefix, so that would be mono. Ox, you can see I dropped one of the O's from mono, so I wouldn't have OO. Ox is my root, and ide is my ending. I'm going to put down a couple more, C2O2, and I'll come up here and do this one, P3C. Just making those up to get you to practice with the naming. Probably not really things that exist at any stability. All right, so I'm going to give y'all a few minutes. I want y'all to practice those other ones. All right, let's go over those. So our next one here, just one phosphorus, so no prefix, so that's phosphorus. Second element always has a prefix. So what do we got here? Sorry, I lost my track. Penta, brome, ide. All right. S, so that's sulfur. And then 6 is hexa. Root is fluor. Ending is ide. Next one, sulfur. 3, so that's tri. Oxide. 2 vowels here, but usually the I and the O are kept. Phosphorus. 5 is penta. Chloride. We did this one. Finally have a prefix because I have 2, so that would be dinitrogen. You notice the ending does not change. You just tack a prefix on the front. And then second one always has, so monoxide. Phosphorus. 6 is hexa, so hexa fluoride. And then I think I gave you C2O2, so that's 2 carbon, so that would be dicarbon, dioxide. And then the other one I gave you was P3C, so 3 is tri, so triphosphorus. And then the second one always has a prefix, so that's going to be monocarbide, changing the ending. All right, so that's it for today on our notes. Pretty easy. If you go into your Google Classroom, it does need to be turned in. Actually, I'm sorry, y'all don't, my virtual students will need to go in their Google Classroom. The rest of y'all have the worksheet. So Mr. Anderson will pass out all of my students that are not virtual, that are in class. Y'all will be completing the worksheet, and that needs to be turned in by the end of the class period. If you're a virtual student, that's the ones that will need to go into the Google Classroom. And this is under daily work. And it's nomenclature, so you will have to use CanMe to fill that out. That is just for my virtual students. My regular students that are in class in person, y'all need to complete the worksheet. So just my virtual ones will be working in Google Classroom. Other ones, y'all need to complete the worksheet and turn it in to him. It is for a grade. It is due by the end of the class period, and it is pretty easy. And then don't forget you have your test on Wednesday. The review will be opened up until 10:30. I'm sorry, till 8:30 Wednesday morning, and you can do it more than once. Alrighty, I will see y'all on Wednesday.